What's up, fantasy football heads? Are you new to fantasy football and you want to learn how to eat W's? You can do it. You can win your work league. You can win your friend league. Just join me on this mission, you guys. I'm not even really a YouTuber. I'm just a former middle school English teacher who now does stand-up comedy and just weirdly keeps winning fantasy. So I want to teach you what I learned, if that's okay. If you're here, maybe you're a beginner like the other people that watched my last beginner video. Thanks so much for doing that. That was super cool. Really appreciate you. And I don't know, maybe you're just sick of losing, so you're joining. And look, joined a league with a bunch of people who've been doing it forever, came in second, then came in first, then came in second. I wish there was somebody just going over the basics so I didn't embarrass myself. And that's what I'm going to do for you really quickly. You drafted your team. That's awesome. So proud of you. But what do you do now? And it is really important that we talk about this one. And if this is the only thing that you take away from this video, it will be the thing that will win you a league. Okay? Okay, do that. Let's talk about the weekly must-dos. Let's talk about IR and how does that work. Whole series that I'm doing. So stuff we'll get to in the future. This time, just like what do I have to do on a week-to-week basis so I don't embarrass myself? First and foremost, you have to set your lineup. I can't stress that enough. Don't even join a league if you're not going to do this. Just don't. If you're watching this in the off season, you're like, should I do it? Is it a lot of work? It's actually not like a lot of work, but you have to set your lineup every week. It's the sleeper app makes it pretty easy. It's one of the best apps. And this point, only your starting team's points count toward your total. For some people, that was super obvious. But if you're like new to sports, like you have to know that. Like he's on your bench, it doesn't matter. Bye weeks, who's on the bye weeks? They start this year at week 5. Injuries, we'll talk about that more in depth very shortly, but every week you have to check every week. And then if you just do those things, you will win some weeks. There's always a guy that didn't. So just do that. Here's a pro tip. Flex the latest playing player. So what do I mean by that? Do not put Thursday night players in your flex spot. All right, you have to start 2 running backs in most leagues, 2 to 3 wide receivers in most leagues, 1 tight end, 1 quarterback in most leagues. And you get a flex spot. You can start a wide receiver, running back, or a tight end. Do not put a player who's playing on Thursday in that flex spot. You don't know what's going to happen. If something crazy happens, I would rather have my latest playing player be the one that's in the flex. That gives me a lot more options for who to start. All right, hope that makes sense. Comment if it doesn't, I'll clarify a little more. Also, on a week-to-week basis, you need to watch your waiver wire. I'm not going to get in the weeds of how to add and drop and how to know who to add and drop, but here's like the high view. It's like who flopped, okay? Who was dropped? Who blew up? Who grew up? Okay, guys, that is Mamma Mia Italian bars, okay? Like Gabagool, if they've been flopping every week, getting you 2 points, 3 points, 0 points, whatever, it doesn't matter where you drafted them. Just at a certain point, you gotta decide to drop them. I do think that there are some times, and we'll go over them in another video in depth, but that you hold them. But who was dropped matters also. It makes sense if they've been flopping on your bench and you want to make room for something else that you might drop them and someone else is going to pick them up. So you want to be that team that's paying attention, picking people up. Somebody is going to blow up. Somebody is going to get 3 targets and score a touchdown on 2 of those targets. All right, the Quentin Johnsons of the world. The targets and the carries matter. How many times are they being thrown the ball? How many times are they being handed the ball? Those are the metrics that you want to track and follow. And that's going to lead to the next one, who grew up. So rookies often take at least 3 weeks to really get schemed in a big way. So you're going to draft a rookie and you're going to be frustrated. And that is true. You're going to. So who grew up? Who's a rookie that is starting to get more and more targets? All right, Mamma Mia Gabagool. Another pro tip for the waiver wire, check your opponent's roster. If you don't know what else to do, just steal their needs. All right. Every week you can look at who you're playing and say like, okay, oh, they need a defense. I got this free roster spot. I'll just grab like the next best available defense. You know, that's kind of an X Games mode pro tip. Every week, move players in and out of IR as needed. Do not drop injured players that are coming back, for the love of God. I've seen so many first-year players do this. It breaks my heart. Just move them to the IR spot. If you don't have IR spots in your league, yell in your commissioner's face. What are you doing? What are you doing? No. But you should be in a league that has at least 1 IR spot. It is the NFL. Everyone is constantly getting injured. I wouldn't play in a league that didn't have at least one. Two's great. I think three is a little excessive because you should have to make some choices, right? All right, now what's IR? It's funny having Michael Thomas in this. If you know, you know. IR stands for injury reserve. It means that they're going to be out for more than 4 weeks. The app doesn't decide to put a player on IR. The league does. A coach, the team makes that decision, and then the app reflects it. Same goes for out. They get marked out by the coach, the franchise, whatever. They're out. It's probably just for the week. There's some instances it's multiple weeks, but the thing with out is they're gonna go through this cycle of questionable, doubtful. All right, now doubtful, you probably can't move them to the IR spot until they're marked as out or IR. Questionable, you definitely can't move them. I don't know any league that's questionable to be moved because really, so many players are going to be questionable every week. And this is what makes it hard. This is what makes choosing who's going to start tough. If they're doubtful, they're probably going to be out. So I just kind of consider them not an option for the week. Questionable, it really is who's to say. My pro tip on this is just monitor their like little notes in Sleeper will tell you if they've been practicing. If it's Friday and they haven't practiced, unless they're like a superstar, I wouldn't start them. Just no, there's no reason for that. There's plenty of depth that you can grab. When you're looking to add players during the week, in case someone who's questionable or doubtful becomes out or worse, added to IR, you're looking for like who can replace that spot or like who's going to be the backup for that spot. If you don't start to pay attention to who's backing up who and having a backup plan, like you're just going to cry. Your roster might get Drew locked. We be twinning. If a player is no longer IR eligible, you have to move them or you can't make any roster moves at all. So your choices are move them to your bench, move them to starting, or drop them. Probably don't drop most players that you drafted in early rounds. That said, I wouldn't move someone who's been out for like 3 weeks right to starting unless they are like Christian McCaffrey. Like there's certain players you know are going to get a lot of touches, but for the most part, if it's like actually T Higgins is a really good example, and I'm going to use him to show you how to move a player to IR on Sleeper. If T Higgins, which he is playing this week for the first time, it's week 3. I am not going to start him no matter what because I have depth. This is just my bench, all right? So I see that he's been marked as out. He wasn't before. So finally, I can move him to IR and make room for more players. I have an empty IR spot. I'm going to click on bench, and this little menu is going to pop up. And then I'm going to click on this IR spot empty. And you can see my starting lineup is CeeDee Lamb, Olave, Pickens, and then I have Williams who I'm flexing. Basically, I am not going to leave T. Higgins on my bench taking up a bench spot. I'm going to go ahead and click in the players tab and see what's out there. This is like such a crucial thing for new beginner players. Like once you can move them to IR, do it, and then do not leave a spot unrostered. Like put somebody in there. That's because okay, there's an opportunity. You don't know who's going to blow up next week. If you sort by targets, if you sort by carries, like you can start to see, even if you don't watch the games, you can start to see who's getting a lot of action, who coaches are trusting, who quarterbacks are trusting. Free up your benches from people who aren't playing. This is the most important point besides the first one, which is twerk hard, play hard. But you have to actually watch a little bit of football. It's really, really recommended if you want to win. And you also can't give up. So many first-year players lose the first 2 weeks and then they just ghost. It's so messed up to your league to do that. Do not do that. And then also, I have been 0-4 in these same leagues. Like I'm pretty sure last year placed second and won like $150, and my record was 7-7. I lost the first 4 games. I'm pretty sure I was 1-5. And I still finished second because you don't give up. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribing is cool if you can. I am on X at _moneyballers talking about fantasy. But if you want to stay in touch with me, I'm at Bucks_wild on all other socials. In the next video, I'm going to talk about waivers. How do I know when to add and when to drop someone? Have a great, excellent night.